Welcome to Rettle's Pub, where we talk about the spirits while partaking of spirits. Last time on Rettle's Pub.
Honestly, I don't know where their spiritual height is. I don't know if they're at a spiritual awakening where they can receive that. And I'm not gatekeeping. I don't feel like I'm gatekeeping. But it's just like, yeah, that was kind of odd. I don't know why I went on that tangent, but
and it was because we were talking about your struggle to hang on to the fivefold ministry.
Hang on to the fivefold ministry.
You gotta worship those people.
You got to bootlick them.
I know.
Because you gotta feed that ego.
Here are your hosts, Nate and Mason.
And so I do struggle with some things, and in this next set of questions that she asked, these are the things I too struggle with, and I don't have an answer for them. I'm just going to say straight up before we even get to the question. But
well, I'm glad you talked about logic and intuition, because within Zen Buddhism, there is the teaching that there are two types of knowledge. There is logical knowledge, which can be explained by words, numbers, ideas, concept, not words and numbers, structure. 2 + 2 is 4. 4 + 4 is 8, right? If you mix so much flour, if you mix so much sugar, you mix so much milk, you're going to have a cake, right? And you can logically, step by step, pam, here it is, right? And then you have intuitive knowledge, which is the knowledge that cannot be explained with words and numbers. Right.
It's the difference between bread and manna.
It is my knower knows. I don't know how I know this, but I know this is the right way. I can't explain it, but I just know that I know that this is it, right? So yeah, and you are correct that when you are a very logical person. So if somebody can explain it logically and outmaneuver that chess game, and then your king is taken, you're like, yeah, this is it. I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna run with it till I die. And then what happened in 2022 is you have always had issues with intuitive knowledge. You've always, because you very logical.
I can't prove it.
You can't prove it, right?
I'm not even gonna talk about it.
Right. Because you shut me down so many times, right? And then you have your spiritual awakening and your twin flame experience, and then intuitive knowledge just explodes, right? And then I think you begin to learn that intuitive knowledge is more pure, in my opinion, is more pure and more potent when you pursue it.
Well, I think. I almost wonder if I'm not going through another dark night of the soul.
You could be.
There is a point where, like, I've kind of settled in. So if we're talking, we'll take a foray into a topic without actually going into the topic. If you look at politics, like politically, I'm still very much a logical, rational person when I look at beliefs when it comes to politics.
Absolutely.
I still use some intuition to see, okay, what is the spirit of this person, regardless of whether I agree with them or not. So I still use that to filter, but I feel like I'm balancing out. Like, I'm not so. What was that Dad used to say? You're so
heavenly minded. You're no earthly good.
I feel like I'm balancing that out to where now I'm starting to live my incarnation logically, but I'm still playing in the spirituality.
Yes.
And basing it, it's almost like it's becoming a holistic thought process as opposed to separating it. But I still lean logical when it comes to logical things.
Right.
To things that are
because you can't be floating around society being all like love and light.
No, you can't. It's not going to do you any good.
There's no production. There's no societal production there.
Well,
That's
I mean,
outside
it's a proven,
normal behavior.
It's a proven fact that you have to go through pressure in order to change. I mean, that's just the way human nature is. Now, what does that mean when it comes to my spirit? It means that whatever pressure I go through is intended for me to go through it. I just need to go through it, handle it, walk through it. I'm going to make it, or I may not, and it is what it is. So, Celeste, let's continue with Celeste now, unless you have other things to say.
No, I'm good.
So Celeste continues. Along these same lines, do souls actually choose a plan to incarnate and live a life of pure evil, ? To torture and rape and murder the innocent, to wreak unspeakable horrors and take delight in these things? ? Is this a sick, twisted version of quote-unquote ordered steps? Or could it be the human spirit was rotten and overrode the soul's plan? Or maybe evil humans operate without a soul, like an NPC, a non-playable character?
So a few years ago, this is a good question. A few years ago, I was listening to Steve Carroll. Steve Carroll channels the entity Cryon.
I thought you was talking about
The Office. He's the wisest man in the world, man. Oh, these messages are so important. I must run to answer them. Oh, that's the best line ever. Oh, no. Is it Steve Carroll? Now you got me.
I don't think it's Steve
I don't
Carroll.
think it's Steve Carroll now. Now you got me all. Now I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Hold on. Lee Carroll. Lee Carroll. I'm so sorry, Mr. Lee Carroll. So I was listening to Lee Carroll channel Cryon. I'm Cryon of Magnetic Service. And they were talking about, Cryon was talking about the veil, right? There's the other side of the veil. So the veil is the break room. And how do we go beyond the veil, right? When we die, we go beyond the veil. We go to the other side, right? And the way Cryon was explaining this is there are souls that are reincarnated, that they are here to learn and to correct their behavior. They're here to learn, and just like everyone else, but they refuse to learn, and they continue to do evil, even though there's a pre-plan for them, even though there's an idea for them, right? There's a GPS, Google Maps plan, and then they just go and continue to do mass murder. They continue to start cults and Kool-Aid people, right? And his channel was going into explaining that hell wasn't designed for us. Hell was designed for those souls that through lifetimes of incarnations or reincarnations or births and rebirths, that they never took a moment to even learn to love and to operate in love, or to even learn to operate in goodness, whatever, that they continued in each lifetime begin to, in each lifetime, murder and violate and just complete, to where it'll come to the point where the soul collective or the divine or the God community just basically says, we're done. Right? We're done with you. You've refused to change. You refuse to learn. You refuse to operate. So you're outside societal norms, right? So you're going to be no more. You're going to be not. And I think that's what happens.
I don't know.
And I can't answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer, because then if that's the case, then there is no predestination, or there is no ordered steps. So I would lean more towards.
Or could it be? Check this out, bro. Could it be that Hitler was pre-planned to do that, and then when he reincarnates, and I don't know, cures cancer. His soul reincarnates, or the soul reincarnates to cure cancer. And that soul was placed into that spacesuit to bring the world to where, to bring the world where it is.
Well, what brought this up, this specific question, is the Holodomor.
The red.
Where the Russians, the communists.
Yeah, the red communists killed teachers, military.
The Ukraine. They were in Ukraine, and they did some horrid things to those people.
Yeah, more than 6 million.
That's where this came from. Is we watched part of a documentary that discussed that. I don't know that I can answer that. There's a point where, like, how do you explain evil? So there are multiple,
because there is pure evil in the world. There is no doubt that there's pure evil.
There's multiple situations that are possible. Some of them are really far out there, but my first inclination is likely it's an NPC. It's the head boss in a video game that's programmed to do it. That would probably be more acceptable in my mind. The
More
other thing
palatable.
is what if there's another set of species that doesn't have a soul?
That would go into what, like watchers and
Lizard people.
lizard people. Yes.
Not that I necessarily believe in lizard people in the
What's
true
his
sense of the
name?
word.
What's his name?
David Icke.
Ike. Yeah. Ike.
It's spelled Icke. But
I like David Ike.
yeah, that's some conspiracy theory stuff. But I think the other problem I have with this concept. So these are the struggles I have. The same struggles that Celeste has, I have with how do you explain the murder in communist and socialist countries where in the 1900s, 250 million people were murdered through communism and socialism.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fact.
Yes.
How do people justify that being ordered steps? And I get the question. I understand the question. The other part of that I struggle with is, okay, so if our steps are ordered, does that excuse the evil? So does that excuse the guy who drives drunk? Does that excuse those, it's kind of a, do you look at it as...
That's a good question.
Or is there a way to set aside our... in condemning that person, are we attached to a specific outcome?
Our ego, our camouflaged free will wishes, right? Wishes that what happened in the Holodomor or what happened in Nazi Germany, whatever, what took place in Cuba, what's taking place in Venezuela, what's taking place in Israel and Palestine right now.
In the Ukraine.
In Ukraine. That our camouflaged human will is like evil hijacked the program. And that's why we're experiencing that. But on the belief that we all go to a break room. We go to the break room, right? And we're sitting around drinking coffee and eating snacks, and we've got our legal pads out, and we're establishing bullet points. Then what happened in the Holodomor was pre-planned to bring about something that what happened in Nazi Germany and Cuba and Venezuela and Palestine and Israel right now and Ukraine is a pre-planned strategy to bring about an awakening, a gift or a jewel. And the victims of that on the other side of the veil in the break room already understood that when they entered this incarnation in this life, that was going to happen. That teaches us, then that goes into the teachings of attachments, right? That's why within spiritual awakening, you realize what it means and the outcome, what it means to have attachment, the outcomes of having attachment causes suffering. So on a mass scale, what we're seeing in these countries and what we have seen in these countries is a mass scale lesson to teach us the reality of attachment to a program, to an idea, to a whatever,
to a societal structure. And that's not to excuse any of it.
No, it's not.
It's nor should we strive to be that person either. You know, I think some of the questions, you know, I mentioned deterministic a while ago. That popped up on my Twitter feed, or X feed these days, where a guy was saying, yeah, determinism is fake because it allows that guy who runs over somebody to feel okay in running somebody over because it was determined to do so anyway. And I get that argument. I'm not entirely sure I necessarily disagree with the argument.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that it's a struggle. I think that's something that any real, quote unquote, real spiritual pursuit causes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Amanda said, I don't know if Amanda said in one of her episodes, you know, it's easy to repent, be baptized in the name of Jesus.
It's simple.
It's easy for women to grow their hair long, or for men to keep their hair short, shave their face, not wear earrings, blah, 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 and all this stuff. It's easy to do those things. It's not so easy to go out with a stone knife, take down an elk by yourself so that you can feed your family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not that easy.
Yeah.
And these are the sorts of things that we struggle with, and I don't know that there will ever be an answer. The only thing that I can say is the world these days is less violent, less bad, so to speak, than it was 50 years ago.
Correct.
Than it was 100 years ago. It was 200 years ago. Where, as a whole, the world is more wealthy now than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
The poorest person now is generally more wealthy than the kings were of 500 years ago.
Yep.
You know, so you start looking at where we are as a human race and understand that the mass casualties that we had in the 40s and 50s and in the 1900s, is it possible for them to happen again? Yes. And in fact, I think that if we're not cognizant of the fact, they can still happen again. You look at, like, for instance, and YouTube may dock this, but look at the vaccine. I think it was the Danish that did a study that said that the vaccine has killed 16 million people worldwide. Mm-hmm. COVID only killed like 20.
Amazing.
So you're almost looking at the cure for COVID
mm-hmm.
being almost as deadly as COVID.
As COVID itself.
And so, and that's taking the COVID numbers at face value, which I don't. So when you start looking at that sort of thing, it's this. How much of this is going? This is straight up, Nate, all the way. How many times is the mass murder and the mass destruction done because people obey?
Oh yeah.
Because people say, well, it's the government. They must know something I don't know. So let's go kill. Mm-hmm. Let's go drop a nuclear bomb on Japan.
Right.
Oh, the government must know something we don't know. So let's go put. What is it now? Ukraine. I didn't realize that other nations were giving them money, or no, other countries. They've gotten like $300 billion in the last 2 years. $300 billion from various nations, not including ours. They're getting like $1 billion a month or $2 billion a month just from us. And so you look at all this political stuff, and people will say, well, our government has to know something that we don't know, and that's the reason why we got to trust them to send the money where they think it needs to be.
Nope.
And it goes religion. It amazes me if we're... So we're going to take a look. I may be taking a little offshoot, and you'll probably enjoy where I'm about to head down this.
Okay.
Down this path. You mentioned earlier before we started recording that your church is going through an awesome, sounds like a very awesome deal that I wouldn't mind going through myself, because it seems very shadow journalistic.
Yes.
Type stuff.
It is.
I'm going through my own shadow journal. My journal. my own shadow journal to try to better myself.
Yes.
And what you're describing as what your church is going through seems to be very much the same. And to me, if you're going to do that sort of thing, do it.
Absolutely.
To the nth degree. I'm not a very legalistic person.
Mm-hmm.
You should know this of me. I'm not very legalistic at all. But if you're taking a shadow journal type concept, mutating it to fit religion.
Yeah, make it palatable.
Make it palatable.
That's what I like to say. It makes it palatable.
It makes it palatable. Let's just put it what it is. It's propaganda at its finest.
Yep.
You're taking worldly ideals, putting church language on it so that you can maintain.
Yes. So the Christians feel, it's not witchcraft.
Yeah, it's not witchcraft or demonic, or that we can heal ourselves.
Right.
I mean, the fact is that we have this, and we're completely off this. This may be its own episode.
We're off the questions.
We're off the questions at this point. It's this concept that I struggle with, that I see most religions, a lot of religions doing, where they take the ideas of New Age religion or the ideas of witchcraft that I'm just now learning. Like there's some fucking witchcraft in churches. Like it's just straight up.
Huge.
It's like straight up in your face witchcraft. There's just because it doesn't have a pentagram doesn't make it any more or less witchcraft, quote unquote. So I find that people will take the good out of things, which I don't have a problem with. I do that. I take the good out of stuff, and I'm like, hey, you know what? That's not a bad deal. Let's do that. That's a good idea. That's a great idea to do because I think it's beneficial to me and the people that I'm around. Mm-hmm. And so I got no problem with it. It's when you start saying, that water is H2O. Let's go ahead and add some more sea moss in there, and add because I want it to look like I want it to look.
Right.
But
you're not calling it exactly what it is.
Let's leave that dirt in the water, and then I'll clean it out later.
Yeah.
I'll clean the dirt out of your life. You can't clean it out yourself. You got to have a mouthpiece in order to get to God.
Yeah.
You got to have Jesus between man and God so that you can be saved. See, that's where all that's that's the reason. That's not the reason I brought that up earlier. That's the struggle I have with Christianity in my current, and not just Christianity.
Yes.
Is because when you start heading down this path of spirituality that you and I are headed down, I cannot, in good conscience, proclaim Christianity.
I understand that.
I cannot, and not because I don't believe that Jesus was deity, or that I don't believe that. It has nothing to do with the deification of Jesus. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with repentance or baptism or dying daily or ordered steps. Right. I mean, think about that. What I've done is I've taken out the hoogie boogie. I've taken the control away from the religious right or the religious anybody,
right,
and said, you no longer have control. Mm-hmm. And that's what spirituality does. Spirituality at its... I mean, look at what Jesus did. Jesus comes in, yes, he kicked over the bankers. But what were the bankers doing? They were making money off of selling
in the church house
religious stuff.
Yes.
Like tracts,
right,
and books and all the. Not that I have
Bible study programs.
There you go. I don't have a problem with people making money.
Right.
But here's the thing. Jesus didn't just come knock the bankers over. He came and completely disintegrated religion as it was.
He did. To its core.
Because and if you ask my opinion, which most people don't, but the Catholic Church just took it and mutated it to a version that we have today, regardless of whether you're Lutheran and you've split off from that from Protestantism. What is it?
Protestantism. You left Catholicism for Protestantism?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all from the same fruit of truth.
The same root.
It's the same root. It's the corrupt root. Mm-hmm. And because Jesus didn't come...
He didn't come to establish a church.
No, he came to break those chains. Correct. To free man. And you can't free man and then suddenly put him back in bondage.
Up next on Reddle's Pub.
That's not the point.
What we're seeing in Christianity right now is we're seeing Phariseeism at its finest.